It is 1939, and a man named Henry Jones is vigorously searching for buried treasure near the Hollywood Bowl. His team has been excavating for 24 days. Crowds have gathered, and cameras are rolling. The public waits in anticipation of a legendary treasure, a treasure that has taken the lives of many and has built a reputation as being cursed. A month later, he is also dead. The treasure is still hidden, and another life taken by the mysterious myth of this buried treasure beneath the Cahuenga Pass of Los Angeles. How did we get here? What legends had Henry heard about this mythical treasure? This is the story of the Cahuenga Pass buried treasure, a collection of gold, jewels, and diamonds. A treasure that was smuggled out of Mexico during war times by direct order of the President of Mexico, and has remained undiscovered since the 1800s. Welcome to Waste Media. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified every time we post. The story begins in 1864. Under order from Napoleon III, French forces had invaded Mexico and installed Archduke Maximilian of Austria as emperor, a puppet ruler meant to serve French interests. But Mexican President Benito Juarez wasn't going to surrender his country without a fight. To fund the resistance, he turned to a secret network of sympathizers who could help secure weapons from the United States. 4 trusted agents were selected for a high-stakes mission to transport a war chest filled with gold, diamonds, pearls, and silver, nearly $250,000 worth, from Mazatlan to San Francisco, where it would be used to purchase arms for the revolution. But the journey quickly took a deadly turn. Before reaching San Francisco, one of the 4 men died suddenly and mysteriously. Suspecting they were being tracked by French spies, the remaining 3 diverted from the original plan. They decided it was too risky to travel with the full fortune. To protect the valuable cargo, they split it into 6 parts, each wrapped in thick buckskin, and buried them in the hills outside San Mateo, planning to retrieve them later. But someone had secretly been watching. A Mexican shepherd named Diego Moreno had witnessed their burial of the treasure from a distance. Later that night, after the agents had left, Diego Moreno dug up the 6 packages and quietly slipped away, heading south with a life-changing fortune strapped to his back. He began heading towards Sonora, Mexico, and along the way would pass by Los Angeles. To get to his destination, he passed by what had once been ancient trails that connected native villages and Spanish missions. He passed by what is now known as the Cahuenga Pass, a low mountain corridor between the San Fernando Valley and the Los Angeles Basin. The Cahuenga Pass is now where the 101 freeway passes from the valley into Los Angeles, and where the Hollywood Bowl is located, along with many homes. Diego's mission home was tiring, and by the time he reached the Cahuenga Pass, he stayed at a small tavern, then known as La Napolera. He was exhausted, hungry, and uneasy. According to legend, that night Diego had a vivid dream. An angel came to him with a warning. If he dared to enter Los Angeles with the stolen treasure, he would die. Shaken by the vivid dream, Diego rose early, before dawn, climbed halfway up the hillside opposite of the road, and buried the 6 buckskin-wrapped packages beneath the only ash tree in the area, a lone landmark surrounded by dry brush and rock. He told himself he would be back for them, but Diego would never get the chance. Sick and starving, Diego Moreno wandered the outskirts of Los Angeles and was taken in by a kind man named Don Jesus Martinez. His sickness became worse, and it quickly became clear that he would not survive. On his deathbed, Diego tried to pass on the secret to Don Jesus Martinez. He wanted to give Don Jesus a reward for taking care of him, but according to legend, Diego never told him of the vivid dream and never warned him of the curse. He began telling Don Jesus about its location. He mentioned a great ash tree halfway to the summit, buried on the other side of the pass. But before he could say more, he fell into violent convulsions and passed away. The treasure was now lost, hidden somewhere in the hills, and shrouded in rumor. Welcome back. Right now, I'm walking alongside the Cahuenga Pass. This pass is really historic and was used by Native Americans and early Spanish missions as a way to get from the valley to Los Angeles. And now the 101 freeway runs through it. Universal Studios is right here. The Hollywood Bowl's right here. Thousands of cars pass by every day. Here's the freeway right behind me. Around the 1850s, there was a treasure that's alleged to be buried somewhere around here. I found out about it through a book. I think it's called On the Old West Coast. It's by Major Horace Bell. And Major Horace Bell lived a really crazy life. He has tons of stories, things he witnessed firsthand. And when he died, I think his daughter turned a lot of his notes into a book. So it's hard to know how much of the story is true or not. Horace Bell's account of it is probably as close as accurate as we'll get. After Diego's death, the legend of the Cahuenga Pass treasure began spreading through whispers and tavern talk. With every retelling, it became clear that those who searched for it rarely lived to tell the tale. Don Jesus Martinez was the first to search for the treasure after Diego's death. Using Diego's description, he made his way towards the Cahuenga Pass with his teenage stepson, Jose Correa. But just as they reached the lone ash tree, Don Jesus clutched his chest, collapsed, and passed away on the spot. Correa, terrified by the second death tied to the treasure, ran away, vowing never to return. But 2 decades later, the curse would return. In 1885, a shepherd was leading his flock through the hills of the pass when his dog began furiously digging near a tree, the same tree that Martinez had once approached. The dog uncovered a weathered buckskin-wrapped package, stuffed with gold, fine jewelry, and expensive watches. Unaware that 5 more packages remained hidden nearby, the shepherd took the treasure and proudly displayed it at a local tavern before booking his passage back to his homeland, Spain. But the curse would not spare him. According to legend, as the ship approached Barcelona, the shepherd spotted his family waiting on the dock. He stood on the railing to wave at them and fell overboard. Because of paranoia, the shepherd had sewn his treasure into the lining of his clothing. His attempt to keep the treasure safe and secure would cost him his life. As he fell into the water, the weight of the treasure dragged him into the depths of the ocean, never to be seen again. By the late 1800s, the legend of the treasure had fully matured into a local ghost story, known by many. Jose Correa, the stepson of Don Jesus, had grown and was now curious of the treasure himself. In 1894, Correa teamed up with Major Horace Bell, a prominent Los Angeles rancher, publisher, and Old West chronicler, to search for it once again. Major Horace Bell wrote an account of this treasure in his book, On the Old West Coast, published in 1930 after his death. I picked up a copy of this book from the Los Angeles Central Library. This version was published in 1930. He goes into detail about people involved in this story and its history. In the book, Horace Bell claims that Correa proposed to him a plan to rent the land where they believed the treasure was. They would rent it for farming purposes, and that they, quote, plow with an immensely deep plow and then subword it with smaller plows so that we cover every foot of the ground deep enough to root out the buried wealth, end quote. Horace agrees to the plan, but then goes on to say that while he was negotiating with the owners of the land, Correa was shot down in the streets of Los Angeles by an assassin. The motive was never known. Other sources say he was gunned down by his brother-in-law. Horace is also the one who later finds out about the shepherd who fell off the ship and drowned. He hears this story from the tavern keeper when discussing the treasure hunt. Horace gives background on Correa in his book, saying Correa was at one time on the police force, was water overseer, a horticultural inspector, and the son of a Mexican army officer. The curse continued. In 1901, it is said that the original bartender who had seen the shepherd's treasure also died while searching for the treasure. But the most dramatic and public attempt to unearth the gold came nearly 4 decades later in 1939. Henry Jones, a mining engineer from San Francisco, arrived in LA with a bold plan. He was convinced that he had located the treasure's resting place, beneath the parking lot of the Hollywood Bowl. Jones assembled a team, and together they convinced the Bowl Association and LA County to grant them a permit. The deal was that the county would keep half of whatever they found. For 24 days, Jones and his team worked under the hot sun, digging a shaft 40 feet deep, behind the bowl's band shell. Spectators flocked to the site, and news crews filmed the operation. Tour buses rerouted to the scene. Guards were posted, and popcorn vendors showed up to cash in. It was a full public spectacle, but as they dug deeper, their luck worsened. The shaft wall collapsed, their tools malfunctioned, and Jones even wrecked his car on his way to the site. Just as they neared what they believed to be the treasure, there was a gas burst from underground, flooding the hole with water. On the 27th day, they hit a giant boulder. It wasn't gold, and the dig was over. 37 days later, Henry Jones was found deceased in his car, parked in a lot off Cahuenga Boulevard. He had run a hose from the exhaust into his window. A note was left behind. His name was now added to the list, the 10th victim of the curse of the buried treasure. Today, thousands of cars rush through the Cahuenga Pass every hour, unaware of what may or may not lie beneath them. The hills have changed. The few descriptions of the tree and the old tavern, clues to the treasure's location, all gone. A completely new environment. Perhaps the treasure is directly beneath the highway, never to be seen again. Or maybe in the hills in the backyard of a quiet home. Most people believe it to be somewhere between Highland Avenue and the summit of the pass. The alleged site is described with eerie precision. Quote, on the side of the pass, about halfway from the tavern to the summit, on the hillside opposite the main road, end quote. Yet it was never found. That puts it near the modern-day neighborhoods of Whitley Heights, or along the eastern slopes just above the 101 freeway. But those hills are now buried under homes, asphalt, and infrastructure. Even if someone did pinpoint the treasure's exact resting place, could they even get permission to dig? Or maybe it's already been found, quietly, secretly, removed by someone who knew to keep their mouth shut. After all, silence is the only sure way to beat the curse. Only one piece of the treasure was found by the lone shepherd in 1885. Could it still be here? We may never know. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check out my Patreon. I post exclusive videos on there. There's an entire exclusive series on the Patreon called The Spiral. It's similar to my videos here, but dives deeper into the supernatural, true crime, conspiracies, things that could possibly get me demonetized on here. So if you want to support the channel, make sure to check that out. And let me know what you think of the new branding and new profile picture. Hope you guys love it. Thank you. See you next time.